So, hello grade 11s. This is a brief video to explain some of the packet that you missed me explaining, which is why are the PPCs curved as opposed to a straight line. And the reason they're curved is because of the law of increasing opportunity costs. And this is because when you're producing two different goods, they don't necessarily need the same kinds of resources. And we're trying to channel resources into producing goods for which they're ill-suited. So if, for example, we had a straight curve, you might have two goods that are very similar, such as buns and bread. These would use similar resources, and as you move out of producing bread and into producing buns, the opportunity cost would be pretty constant. But when you have two goods that need slightly different resources, the more you move out of one and into the other, the more likely you're going to see the increasing opportunity costs. So good soil and farm laborers are not going to be able to produce cars, for example. So as you move out of wheat and into cars, you're not going to have such an easy task, and the opportunity cost is going to keep going up. This example here puts some numerical values onto this. You can see as we go up, we can increase from E to D, and then from D to B, 2.3, and from B to A, 3. As you move up the curve, at first you only have a small opportunity cost, but as you move into more and more production of good X, you're going to see increasing opportunity costs. Here you can see the other direction it works the same way. As you move out of producing good X and into producing good Y, you have increasing opportunity costs. The numbers here are not perfect because they're artificially created by me, but you can see that it goes from 3.3 to 5, which is still demonstrating the same point. Here you can see the two ways of showing how to show economic growth on a PPC. So this diagram here is showing that in the first line, the economy can produce XXX of good X and XXX of good Y. And over time, for whatever reason, the capabilities of this economy get better, and this shifts the curve outward. When they're producing 4x of good X and 4x of good Y, this is an increased capacity to produce, and thus that shows economic growth. The other way of showing economic growth is from a point. So let's say you're producing below your capacity at point A. And if you increase your production of either good X or Y, which means you could shift in this direction or this direction, or any point closer to or onto the frontier, the curve, you will show that you have also achieved economic growth. This first one here shows a growth in your productive capability or capacity, and this one shows an actual growth of where you are producing right at this point in time. You can show which economy grows the most. You can compare two economies. Here you've got economy A producing more capital goods and economy B producing more consumer goods. And if you were to take these, the example in your worksheet shows the production of, let's say, fish here and fishing rods or fishing nets here. And if, for example, you focus your economy like economy B on just producing fish, you'll have lots and lots of varieties of fish in your market, but you won't grow. But if you take a few hours of your day to produce capital goods, then you're going to make a fishing net, and tomorrow you'll be able to catch more fish than you will today. And this is all explained here. This is producing things that we cannot consume directly, but that contribute to our future. And here's those fishing nets and fish. If we use productive resources to make capital goods, we are giving up something that we can consume today. We are foregoing current consumption. In order to have more consumer goods in the future, we must accept fewer consumer goods today. And so the big rule in this case is the opportunity cost of future consumption is current consumption. So what you're giving up for your future consumption is your current consumption. You're giving up something today in order to have something tomorrow. This is just like putting money in the bank. If you put a little bit of money away from your paycheck, it means you can't spend that money or buy things with it. But if you put it in the bank, it means in the future you'll have more money to spend. So this demonstrates the same argument. This concept of playing two goods off on the PPC can be used for lots of other different types of goods. Common examples in economics include military goods versus healthcare. This is saying, are we focusing on military, or are we spending on healthcare or food or consumer goods? And in comparison, which economy would grow? So in this case, healthcare would grow. Economy B would grow more than economy A. And that's because you're spending more on the welfare of your population. You're allowing them to be healthy and more productive and have healthy children who will also be more productive. Guns and food. Consumer goods are going to lead to more growth of the population, whereas guns may generate money, but that's not going to help your population produce. Luxuries versus necessities. If you focus more on necessities, then you're going to perhaps not necessarily meet the needs or wants of your population. This example doesn't compare quite as well as some of these other examples, although you may be asked to play them off in an exam. Okay? This last exercise asks you to answer the question of, when you are constructing a motorway, what is the opportunity cost for constructing that motorway? And the answer is B. The goods and services that could otherwise have been produced had the road not been constructed. Because it's not these other items, because it's not the money actually spent, that's already gone. It's not the borrowing of the finance, because that's already happened. And it's not taxation, because that's a method of payment. That's not an opportunity cost. Okay, so you had to do a practice exercise on the worksheet. I recommend you go and do this. It asks you to define a PPC and explain in your own words why a PPC is curved, and give 2 reasons why it can shift outwards. The 2 reasons you should be writing down are technology and resources. Technology increases or resources increase, and this shifts your curve out to the right. The answers to this exercise, which you can go through and do in your worksheet right now, the opportunity cost of moving from A to B would be 20 clocks, or 4/3. The opportunity cost of moving from C to B would be 10 pieces of chocolate, or 1/3. Which point is unobtainable? The answer is D. And the opportunity cost of moving from D to E is 80 clocks, or 8. And the answer for E is 50 clocks, or 5. Assuming that an economy produces these 2 goods, you're going to show the effect on each PPC. With an increase in technology, or an increase in the stock of oil, or economic growth, that's A, B, and E, you would see a shift outward of the PPC. This is because technology would increase your capability of producing. It gives you tractors or tools to be able to produce. Oil is really important because it's in every single good in the economy, and every single good because it's in transportation costs. So if we increase the stock of oil, we can transport goods more cheaply, and thus we'll be able to produce more. An epidemic and unemployment both show a shift inward of your PPC, because it means you're not using your resources to their maximum capacity. Unemployment and a flu epidemic shift the PPC inward because your resources are unemployed or underutilized. Your people are sick, they're not able to produce at maximum capacity. So that shifts the PPC inward. The last question, and this is the last part of your packet, just pulls 2 imaginary countries, Gondomar and Bayona. One is spending more on investment, and one is spending more on consumer goods. And this goes back to the same example I gave you before about capital goods and consumer goods. Investment implies you're investing in factories or you're buying equipment, and this is capital goods. And consumer goods would be goods that are only used for now. And so if you go back and look at this statement here, this would be an answer to that question about Gondomar and Bayona. Okay, this takes us into a video. I really recommend you take the time to watch this 9-minute video so that you can summarize the reason why the PPC is curved and how it shows scarcity. There's also other videos you can watch on this website. It's a little bit old. He talks about the war in Iraq, so take that to mean that it's not current events necessarily, but it's still useful for explaining the theory. These 3 worksheets are what you will work on in class, and that's enough for now. Hope everything goes well. Save your questions for when I get back on Thursday, so that you can prepare for the quiz on Friday. Have a great day.